Welcome to RAW Confession. If you like crazy, unbelievable stories, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss them out. Let's hop into today's story.
I, 25 years old male, got into a relationship with my ex-girlfriend, 25 years old female, during the COVID-19 pandemic. Our history together goes way back to our school days, starting in 2014. Back then, we were inseparable, the kind of friends who could talk about anything and everything. However, as life would have it, we drifted apart during our college years. Even though our friendship wasn't as strong as it once was, we still managed to keep in touch. And the bond, though faint, never completely disappeared. After we graduated in 2020, she re-entered my life more significantly. It was like rekindling an old flame, one that had never truly gone out. I found myself developing deep feelings for her, feelings that had likely been dormant for years. When I finally mustered the courage to express how I felt, she was hesitant. It took a lot of convincing, a lot of late-night conversations, and heart-to-heart talks. But eventually, she decided to give us a chance. To my delight, we clicked almost immediately. The connection was undeniable. It was as if we were meant to be together. Our emotional attachment grew stronger, and the physical intimacy was unlike anything I had ever experienced. It felt like we had found something truly special, a bond that could withstand anything. I was happy, truly, deeply happy. However, as time went on, I began to notice some cracks in our seemingly perfect relationship. She had communication issues, a habit of keeping things bottled up instead of discussing what was really bothering her. It often felt like it was on me to figure out what was wrong, to decode her silences and understand the underlying issues. During arguments, instead of working through our problems, she would often bring up the idea of breaking up. It was a recurring theme that made every disagreement feel like it could be the end of us. In those moments, I found myself swallowing my pride, apologizing even when I knew I wasn't at fault, just to keep the peace and save our relationship. It became a pattern, one where I had to set aside my own self-respect just to hold on to what we had. 3 years passed this way, and by mid-2023, I found myself on the brink of the greatest opportunity of my career. I was preparing for one of the most prestigious exams in the country, something I had been working towards for years. I cleared the first 2 stages and reached the interview round, which was to be held in a different city. She wanted to accompany me, and although I had reservations, I agreed. I thought having her by my side would be supported, a source of strength. But instead, that trip turned into a nightmare. She demanded my attention constantly, even when I was trying to prepare for the most critical moment of my career. She wanted to be babied, to be the center of my world, even when my focus needed to be elsewhere. It was suffocating. On several occasions, she slapped me playfully, but it didn't feel playful to me. It felt disrespectful. I asked her to stop, to understand the seriousness of the situation. When she didn't listen, I finally raised my voice, something I rarely did. Her reaction was immediate. She turned it around on me, accusing me of not treating her right, of being unkind and unloving. 2 months later, my results came in. I hadn't passed, my interview had gone poorly, and I had failed to clear the exam. It was a crushing blow, the lowest point in my career. And it was at this moment, when I was already down, that she decided to leave me. She told me she couldn't be with me anymore. I was devastated, completely shattered. The woman I loved, the person I thought would stand by me through thick and thin, left me when I needed her most. I begged her to reconsider, to see past the disappointment and work through our issues together, but she was resolute. She was done, and I was left alone, with my dreams in ruins and my heart broken. I had lost not only my career opportunity but also the woman I loved and trusted. To make matters worse, I realized that I had almost no friends left, as I had distanced myself from everyone during our relationship. I tried to pick up the pieces of my life and move on. I didn't contact her again, choosing instead to let her go. It hurt deeply, especially when I found out she had moved on and entered a new relationship within a month. The pain of seeing her with someone else so soon after our breakup was almost unbearable, but I knew I had to let her go. In February 2024, months after our breakup, she unexpectedly reached out to me. She told me she had broken up with her new boyfriend and that she missed me. My heart ached with conflicting emotions. When I asked her if she wanted to get back together, she refused, leaving me more confused than ever. Why had she come back into my life only to reject me again? Then, in May 2024, she reached out once more. This time, she seemed more sincere, more determined to reconcile. She was making genuine efforts to re-enter my life as my lover. After much deliberation, I agreed. I wanted to believe that things could be different, that we could work through our past issues and start anew. But 3 weeks into our renewed relationship, she dropped a bombshell. She confessed that within 5 days of our breakup in 2023, she had slept with my best friend, who was also a close friend of hers. Let's call him this. The news was like a punch to the gut. I was devastated all over again. I felt betrayed not just by her, but by my best friend as well. I was ready to end things right then and there, but she pleaded with me. She said it was a terrible mistake, something she deeply regretted. She claimed she was disgusted with herself and that she had been feeling guilty ever since. She begged me not to destroy what we had rebuilt, to give her another chance. As if that wasn't enough, she also confessed that during her relationship with her ex-boyfriend over the past year, she had cheated on him with her married manager. The revelation made me feel physically ill, but once again, she spun a story claiming that the manager had forced himself on her, that she had been a victim of his advances. She also tried to shift the blame for our breakup onto her sister, saying she had been manipulated and instigated to leave me. In August, she asked me to visit her in her city, and despite my reservations, I agreed. I stayed with her for a few days, trying to rebuild trust, trying to make sense of everything that had happened. But during my stay, I noticed something that made my heart sink. She had kept a few gifts from my best friend, S. I asked her to remove them, explaining that they made me uncomfortable, that they were a painful reminder of her betrayal. She was reluctant, arguing that the gifts were expensive and she couldn't just get rid of them. As we spent more time together, we had several conversations about the past year, about everything that had happened between us. But each time, her stories seemed too good to be true, as if she was still hiding something. I repeatedly asked her to tell me the whole truth, to come clean about everything. She insisted that she had, but there were gaps in her story, things she claimed not to remember. 2 days before I was supposed to return home, I found myself unable to sleep. A nagging feeling in the pit of my stomach wouldn't let me rest. While she was sleeping, I decided to check her phone, to look at the chats with us. What I found confirmed my worst fears. She had lied to me, repeatedly and without remorse. The messages weren't the result of a drunken mistake, as she had claimed. They were flirtatious, full of affection and admiration. She had told him that he was the first guy to make her feel special, the first guy who wanted to spoil her. It was like a dagger to my heart. I couldn't even bring myself to read the entire conversation. In that moment, I knew I couldn't stay. I packed my bags, ready to leave without a word. But she woke up and saw me. She blocked my path, refusing to let me go. I asked her, as calmly as I could, to let me leave, but she wouldn't budge. Instead, she began gaslighting me, trying to convince me that she had been telling the truth all along, that what I had read in the messages was just her being polite. She even turned the tables, accusing me of sabotaging our relationship by invading her privacy, by checking her phone. A massive argument ensued. I was heartbroken and furious, unable to believe the extent of her deceit. After hours of back-and-forth accusations, I just wanted the pain to stop. I told her that I still wanted to work things out if she could come clean, if she could be honest with me. She confessed to some of the lies, but still insisted that the chats I had read were misleading, that they didn't mean what they seemed to. Then she asked me about my own past year, about what I had done while we were apart. I told her that I had a brief fling with someone I met on Tinder in January. Nothing serious. Her reaction was explosive. She couldn't believe that I had been with someone else, despite everything she had done. She went into a rage, throwing tantrums and refusing to let go of the past, despite asking me to do the same. The next day, her behavior became even more erratic. She started accusing me of sleeping with one of my friends, someone she had never liked. By this point, I was an emotional wreck, exhausted from the constant arguments and the flood of emotions. In a moment of weakness, fueled by alcohol, I snapped. I yelled at her, venting all the pent-up anger and frustration. I picked up my phone and called the friend she had accused me of sleeping with, determined to clear my name. She tried to leave the room, but I grabbed her hand, pulling her back and telling her that she needed to hear the truth before making any more accusations. She yanked her hand away and stormed off to another room. I followed, still shouting, still trying to make her see the damage she had done. By this point, I was beyond control, my emotions spilling over. I couldn't see straight, tears streaming down my face. The alcohol was taking its toll, and soon enough, I found myself vomiting from the excessive drinking. I passed out for 3 hours, completely drained. When I woke up, the first thing I did was rush to her to apologize. I knew I had crossed a line, that my behavior had been unacceptable. I told her I was deeply sorry, that I had never behaved like that before and that it would never happen again. I was desperate to make things right, to somehow salvage what was left of our relationship. But by then, the damage had been done. She had already contacted her family, telling them that I had hit her, that I had raised my hand against her and abused her. Her family was livid, threatening to have me thrown in jail. She demanded that I leave immediately, in the middle of the night, and I did. Even after that, I continued to apologize, offering to personally apologize to her parents for my behavior. But she wasn't interested. Instead, she accused me of making subtle threats, suggesting that I was planning to tell her parents about everything she had done. Later, she escalated her accusations, claiming that I had tried to strangle her. It was a complete fabrication, but I felt powerless to defend myself. I told my family everything, and my sister reached out to her to try and resolve the situation. My sister asked her directly if I had hit her or raised my hand against her. At first, she backtracked, admitting that I hadn't hit her, that I had only grabbed her hand. But even then, she seemed confused, unsure of what story she was trying to stick to. My sister warned her not to make false accusations, explaining how damaging they could be to someone's mental health. In response, her sister accused my sister of verbally assaulting and abusing her. At this point, my family insisted that I cut off all contact with her and her family. It was clear that the situation was toxic and that no good could come from continuing to engage with her. I blocked her on all platforms and cut ties completely. But despite the distance, I still find myself haunted by the events that transpired. I have flashbacks of the night she accused me of being a woman beater, of the threats and humiliation I endured. It has left a deep scar on my confidence, and I'm struggling to come to terms with the fact that I didn't do anything wrong. It has taken every ounce of courage I have to share this story with the world, but I hope that by doing so, I can begin to heal. I hope that one day, I will be freed from the guilt and the trauma that has weighed so heavily on me. Any advice on how to deal with this trauma and navigate through the aftermath of this situation would be greatly appreciated. Thank you in advance for your support.
That's the end of this story. If you found it engaging, please 38 to 38. Give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this.